topic that needs to be spoken about, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people have already talked about, but guess what? I just want to add a little bit of my insight. We are going to be having a conversation about, does self-pep talk actually work? Let's dive in. What is self-pep talk? Self-pep talk is basically having a conversation one-on-one with yourself. You can be sitting down like how I am right now and just kind of being your thoughts, chime in, gather all your information and talk it out with yourself. Or another way to do it is to stand in front of a mirror and talk to your reflection. That's also known as a self-pep talk. So the question is, does it actually work? And based on research and podcasts and books that I have read, a lot of the psychologists have recommended that self-pep talk is actually very good for you. It's actually healthy for you, not just for the mind, but also a way to get weight off of your chest, off your shoulders. But here's the thing, it all falls down on how you speak to yourself. So if you speak more negatively to yourself, that's going to lead to more toxic and rather detrimental to your health. But psychologists believe that if you were to speak more positively to yourself, the way, your tone, and how you interact with yourself when you are having this conversation on one-on-one really actually helps you. It boosts your self-esteem, and it allows you to take a moment to understand that you should have compassion and love for the journey you are on. To share my side of the story, my personal experiences with self-pep talk. So, to begin with, it's not that great. I don't even know how to describe it, but I remember the very first time when I was struggling with a lot of things like mental health, insecurities, etc. And I was struggling with all of that. And the first thing that came to mind that was recommended for me to try was to talk to myself, like my reflection, talk to myself. And at first I thought, that's weird. Why would I want to talk to myself? Who does that? You know what I mean? But eventually I woke up out of bed. I decided one day I woke up out of bed and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it a try and see how it is. And I stood in front of the mirror and I just said, hi, Karina. And I was like, what did I just do? Like, this feels so unusual. I'm not used to this. And to be honest, during this journey of self-pep talk, no, it doesn't come easy. It's not simple. It's quite challenging, quite difficult because, most of us, we don't like talking to ourselves in front of the mirror, because it's uncomfortable. We're like, why would we want to talk to ourselves? It's like, why? There's nobody there except for my own reflection. And it's really uncomfortable. It gives me that uneasiness to sit in front of a mirror and have a conversation one-on-one with myself. Or not even in front of a mirror, just sit down and collect my thoughts within myself and have a conversation to figure out what am I feeling, what's going on, how can I deal with this? Well, I admit I did not like it. And the reason why I didn't like it, I'm going to be very honest, is because it brought a huge wave of discomfort. And because this discomfort was something that I haven't, back then, I didn't exactly allow myself to explore and give space to try, that was the reason. But another reason why it was really uncomfortable for me to dive further into the self-pep talk was because there was a lot of emotions that I have not confronted, and those emotions were the ones that were very deep inside. So to be honest, yes, self-pep talk, whether you're sitting down or talking to yourself in a mirror, yes, it can be uncomfortable because a lot of emotions that have been suppressed or buried really far deep down, we forget about them. And when we are suddenly triggered by something or something traumatic happens in our life, whether it's big or small, or something has been, ticked us off, we need a moment to just reset ourselves. Like, okay, we need a moment to just sit down and really gather our emotions and our feelings and have a meeting, a conversation, an uncomfortable talk about what is happening. So yes, self-pep talk it can be uncomfortable, especially for beginners. And I know this firsthand. It's not easy. It makes you feel silly at first, and I understand. But hey, it really does act. The idea of self-pep talk actually improves your self-esteem. It teaches you how to be more compassionate in the journey that you are on, whether you are at rock bottom or you're in between or you're on top of the mountain. Teaching yourself how to speak kindly. And one of the thing about self-pep talk is that it really falls out on the way how you are speaking to yourself. If you are being critical or pointing out your flaws or your insecurities, that's actually quite detrimental to your health, mentally and emotionally. But if you decide to change the way you want to talk to yourself, your tone, your words, your attitude, your mindset, by showing up authentically as yourself in front of the mirror, raw as yourself, imperfect parts of you, and you show up and you just say something simple as, hey, good morning, I love you as you are, and that's enough. But it really all depends, because the mindset plays a really, really big role. If you were to be more critical against yourself, then obviously that's more a negative and toxic side, and going into that pattern isn't necessarily healthy. It's actually a cycle that you want to break. The main purpose of self-pep talk is to actually really resolve all the emotions and the feelings that you've been suppressing and that needs to be discussed openly and out loud. And if I'm being honest, to be very, very transparent, when I first started my self-pep talk, I was very embarrassed to do it. I couldn't figure out why I was embarrassed to do it. And eventually, at one point, I woke up and I realized that there was a lot of things that was going within me that I refused to acknowledge. And when I stood in front of the mirror and I admit that I felt shameful, I felt embarrassed to sit here and have this conversation with myself, I felt like a whole new me just been ripped off and something new was born. I was like, wow. It feels really good to just admit the truth. It's easy? No, of course not. It feels uncomfortable. It feels weird. Yeah, you might laugh at it later. I know I did. But the main purpose of self-pep talk is to learn how to speak to yourself kindly, to show up as yourself and genuinely be compassionate in the journey you are on. To know that you're trying your best. Even on your days when it's the hardest day, the darkest, most rainiest day for you, you just say, hey, I'm trying. What I'm doing is enough. And I'm okay with where I'm at. And talking to yourself, I know a lot of people find it like unusual, like, oh, why would I want to sit down and talk to myself? But the truth is that no one's going to listen to you other than yourself. Because the one person who hears it most is you. Because you are the one that lives inside your mind. No one else lives in your mind